Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's the Metalhead Potterhead here, and today we're asking, how valuable is your Harry Potter book? Let's take a look. So you've probably heard for the last while that first edition Harry Potter books sell for tens of thousands of euro or dollars or whatever. And that is true. Certain books have sold for that kind of money, but what exactly does that mean? What is a first edition? So before we get into that kind of stuff, let me just say, for the purpose of this video, we're looking at the first UK releases, the Bloomsbury releases, because they are the ones that sell for the big books. I may do a video at a later stage on the Scholastic books, but for the purpose of this video, it's purely about the UK Bloomsbury first editions. Now, what is a first edition? A lot of people get mixed up on this. With the Harry Potter Bloomsbury books, you're not exactly looking at the first editions, because technically a lot of them are first editions. When you release a book, for example, you ask for 500 copies to be made of the first run, see how they do, and if they sell out, then you ask for maybe another 500 or maybe 1,000 copies. So 1,500 copies are on sale. They're all first editions. The first run and that second run of the 1,000, that's still a first edition. If you ask for 5,000, that's still a first edition. But what you're looking at there is the print runs. So that first print run was 500 copies. That's what we're looking for when we say first edition. It's not correct. It's actually first edition, first printing. That second 1,000 copies that I mentioned in the example, that's the first edition, second printing. So when we look at that with Harry Potter, what does that mean? So the first book we're going to look at is actually obviously the Philosopher's Stone. So the first edition, one of these, an actual true first edition, sells for tens of thousands. That's the one that goes for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in auction. Do you have one? That's the question. So with the actual first edition, first printing, there were only 500 copies made. Now we're speaking hardback because the hardbacks are always exponentially more valuable than the paperbacks. The first edition, first printing, hardback version of the Philosopher's Stone does sell for that kind of money. There were 500 made, only 500. 300 of them went to schools and colleges, and 200 circulated, were available for sale, and so on. Now, most of them are accounted for, but not all of them. There's a famous story of a reporter who interviewed J.K. Rowling, who was a nobody author. Nobody knew who she was, so nobody would have thought the books were going to do very well. He took his first edition after the interview, went home and threw it in the bin. And that's probably out in some landfill in the world right now today. But ultimately, a lot of them are accounted for, but again, not all. How do you identify an actual true first edition Harry Potter book? Well, there's a few things that you need to look out for. The most obvious one is the young wizard on the back. Now, he's on a lot of print runs, a lot, so that doesn't really tell you much. Another one, there's an error here where it says Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry on a true first edition. That's actually Wizardry and Witchcraft. It's the wrong way around. It will say on the copyright page Joanne Rowling as opposed to J.K. Rowling. And the most important thing to look for is the number line. So it should read 1 to 10 or 10 to 1 to say it's a true first edition. This version here, this is a fourth printing. So it's a first edition, fourth printing. It's a valuable book. It's worth about maybe 300 or 400 euro, but it's certainly not worth the big books that we're talking about. One more thing to look out for on the Philosopher's Stone is on most copies after the second printing, I think it says winner of the 1997 Smarties Gold Award. On a true first edition, it says a terrific read and a stunning first novel, Wendy Cooling. So true first edition will have that, not the Smarties Gold Award. So if you have all those items that I mentioned on your book, oh, I forgot one very important thing. On page 53, there's a very famous error where it lists one wand twice. Now, a lot of people think that alone, if they see that error, they've got a very valuable book. They don't. That error was on the second and third printing before it was fixed. So for proper first printing, you need the number line 10 to 1. The few little errors I spoke about, Joanne Rowling, page 53, wands, the witchcraft and wizardry the wrong way around. Oh, also forgot, On the true first edition, it has a spelling on the back of Philosopher's Stone. It left out an O. So if you have all of those points, you've got a very expensive book. If you've got the number line 10 to 2 or 11 to 2, it's a second printing, it's worth a bit of money. When you get to third, fourth, it's not worth as much. But as I said, this is a fourth printing, it's worth a few £100. Another thing I want to talk about is the Harry Potter, very similar. A lot of people find these on the market and everything's the same. It says first edition and so on, but they're from Ted Smart. These are the book people. These were the kind of guys that would go around to offices. You get a catalogue of different books to order and you'd pay and you collect the book next week. These are the book people. There's not much value in their books whatsoever. And this version here is a third printing. To find a first edition one of these, it would be worth a few £100. Also, the deluxe versions, first editions, sell for a lot of money. And if you have a version, one of the earlier versions, when J.K. Rowling was doing a lot of tours, a lot of book signings, her autograph will definitely bring the value up a bit more. So, third, fourth printings, they're worth a few £100. That true first edition, well, one sold for $80,000. So if you have one in your collection right now, well, good for you. Next is the Chamber of Secrets. So a true first edition, you're talking a few thousand. It's nowhere near the level of the Philosopher's Stone. There was 10,500 hardback first editions released, so already you can see things were improving. Again, the true first edition will have that number line where it reads 10 to 1, 1 being first edition, first printing. Excuse me, this is a 7th printing, so not too valuable, but you know, hard to find. 7th printing. And again, the deluxe versions can sell for a decent amount of money, but anything that with a J.K. Rowling autograph will sell for a lot more money. Prisoner of Azkaban. So when we got up to this kind of book, there's a lot more first editions. Now, interesting with this one, when they were printing, mid-print run on that first printing, they changed her name from Joanne Rowling to J.K. Rowling. It was actually an error. There's also an error with some misaligned text that was fixed. So that first edition, first batch, can sell for between 1,500 and 10,000. There were 5,000 of those first editions, first batch with those errors. Fixed the error, released the rest, and then they're not worth so much. Another first editions, first printing, second printing from after that batch, well, the first edition, first printing from after the error was fixed, and then the second edition can sell for a few hundred, but you're starting to see the values not so much. Anything with an autograph, as mentioned, will sell for a hell of a lot more money. So the last book that we're going to look at for value is the Goblet of Fire. So if you remember the Philosopher's Stone, there were 500 first editions. With this, there were 750,000 first editions. And this is the first time they started actually printing first edition, which means first edition, first printing. The second printing has the number line 11 to 2 or 10 to 2. This is the first time it actually says first edition when it is a first printing. First edition, first printing. Not very valuable, maybe £100 for an actual first edition. Anything with an autograph, obviously the prices go higher. The books that came after, a lot of people get excited because they've got first editions, but I think Order of the Phoenix had 6 million or something like this, something ridiculous. I know Deathly Hallows was millions and millions of actual first editions. It's harder to find a second or third print run of Deathly Hallows than it is to find a first edition. If you're in a thrift store and you find a Deathly Hallows, most likely it'll be a first edition. So that's just a quick look at the kind of prices on the books right now and how to identify if they're valuable or not. Hopefully the video was of some use to you guys. It'd be amazing to think you're watching this and you have a Philosopher's Stone first edition, first printing, because ooh, wow, send it my way please. Okay, hope you liked the video. See you on the next one. Bye.